The first thing she said when she grabbed my arm in the deep end was, "I'm not panicking." She was absolutely panicking. Her grip told me that. Her breathing told me that. The way she had her eyes fixed on the far wall of the pool, like if she looked at the water it would become real, that told me that too. I kept us both afloat. I said, "I know." She held on tighter. That was 6 weeks ago. I have thought about it more than 6 weeks of thinking should probably allow. My name is Cole Reardon. I'm 36. I teach secondary school geography and coach the junior swim squad 2 mornings a week, which is the most enthusiasm I have professionally mustered for anything in recent memory. I live in the same mid-terrace I've owned for 4 years. I make passable coffee. And for the better part of 2 years, I have had a very uncomplicated life that I have been quite committed to keeping that way. The uncomplicated life was a deliberate construction. It followed 18 months with Jess Navarro. Not bad, not dramatic, just gradually obvious that we had been better as an idea than as a reality. We ended it in the spring of the year before last, without much wreckage. Stayed cordial in the way adults manage when they're both being reasonable about something that didn't quite work. I had not anticipated Mara. Mara Navarro is 29. She is a graphic designer who works from a kitchen table covered in so many sticky notes that the surface itself has become a secondary concern. She has a very specific energy, contained, precise, quick. The kind of person who has already processed 3 things while everyone else is still reacting to 1. She makes dry observations under her breath that are not technically addressed to anyone and are always exactly right. I had met her twice during the Jess years. Once at a birthday dinner, once in a supermarket car park. I remembered her the way you remember someone who made an impression without creating an occasion, sharply and without a clear reason why. She messaged me in January. "I know this is strange. Jess gave me your number. I'm trying to learn to swim properly. I can get across a pool, but not without looking like I'm losing an argument with the water. You coach. Apparently. Would you be willing? I'll pay." I stared at this for longer than was necessary to parse it. I said yes. I'm not entirely sure what I told myself my reason was. The first session was functional. She could swim, she just couldn't swim well, and she knew it. And the knowing irritated her. She had done the adult beginner's thing of learning enough technique to move through water while retaining a fundamental uncertainty about whether the water was on her side. In shallow waters, she was fine. Purposeful, even. She listened well. She adjusted quickly. In the deep end, she went quiet in a way that was different from her usual quiet. I did not push it. We stayed in the shallows that first week. I corrected her stroke, her breathing rhythm, the inefficient way she turned her head to inhale. She took each note like someone who writes things down. She was back the following Thursday. Over the next 4 weeks, she improved steadily and grew, in her way, comfortable in the water, or at least comfortable enough to make dry remarks about it. After a session where her tumble turns were, collectively, better described as graceful falling, she climbed out of the pool and said, without looking at me, "I understand now why fish don't bother." I laughed. She looked mildly pleased with herself and went to collect her towel. This was the pattern. Session. Progress. Something quiet and precise that was technically not directed at me. The specific small satisfaction of watching someone get measurably better at something they had decided to stop being afraid of. I was very professional about all of it. I was somewhat less professional about the rest of my week. Week 5. She was ready for the deep end. I told her so at the start of the session. She looked at the far lane marker and said nothing for a moment. Then she said, "Right." Fine, she said it the way a person says something that they have already decided before they arrived. We went in together. 6 feet. Then 8. She stayed focused, stayed controlled, kept her breathing even in the methodical way I had watched her practice. I stayed within arm's reach. We reached the deep end, the full 3 meters, and she turned and looked back at where we'd come from, and for a moment she was fine. Then something shifted. I don't know what it was, a shadow in the water, or the distance, or just the particular animal brain knowledge of how far down the tiles were beneath her feet. Her kick stalled. Her arm movement went tight and wrong. She reached out and grabbed my arm. "I'm not panicking," she said. She was gripping hard enough that I could feel every finger. "I know," I said. I moved us toward the wall. She held on the whole way. When we reached the rail, she took it with her other hand and breathed for a while, looking at the far end of the pool. Her jaw was set. Her hair had come loose from her swim cap and was dark against her neck. She said, after a moment, "That was embarrassing." "It wasn't," I said. "It was objectively embarrassing, Cole. It's the deepest point of the pool. Everyone stalls their first time. The body doesn't trust depth." She glanced at me sideways. The look she gave me was the one I had started to recognize, assessing, slightly reluctant, as if she were deciding how much weight to give what I'd just said. "We go again," she said. "We don't have to today. We go again." So we did. Twice more. By the 3rd pass, she made it to the deep end and back without stalling. When she climbed out, she sat on the pool edge and looked at the water with the expression she used when something had genuinely landed. No performance to it, no announcement, just a private moment of having done the thing. Something in me sat down quietly and stayed. The following week's session, she arrived before I'd unlocked the lane ropes and was standing at the pool edge with a coffee she'd clearly bought for the walkover, looking at the water like they'd had words and reached an agreement. She handed me a second cup without looking at me. I accepted it. I did not remark on it. I blamed the steam for why I was suddenly interested in the pool deck. She was better that day than she had been any previous session. Relaxed in a way that water does to you once the fear has downgraded into something manageable. I watched her turn at the deep end and push off the wall and come back, and she was smooth and sure, and nothing like the woman who had grabbed my arm the week before. Or she was exactly like her. That was the thing. The grab had not been weakness. It had been someone deciding, under pressure, that holding on was the practical option. Everything Mara did was a decision. Even the frightened things. After the session, we stood in the car park. This had begun to happen. A 10-15-minute extension that was notionally about the next week's session and was in practice something else that neither of us had named. "I think I'm done," she said. "With the lessons. I can swim. I'm not going to pretend the deep end is my favorite place, but I can do it." I said, "Okay." She looked at me. "I mean that I don't need lessons anymore," she said. I wasn't saying, she stopped, pressed her lips together. I wasn't ending the, "I don't know what this is." I said, "Neither do I." She turned her coffee cup in her hands. Her thumbnail picked at the cardboard sleeve in the way she did when she was working something out. "My sister will think this is about her," she said. It isn't. I want to say that first. I know it isn't. Do you? I think you'd have more interesting ways to get back at Jess if that were the motive, I said. You seem like someone who reads the room. The almost smile. The one she didn't finish. "It's strange," she said. "You and me. The way we got here, I keep checking whether it's strange, and it keeps not being strange, and I can't decide if that's a good sign or a suspicious one. Which way are you leaning?" She looked at me for a moment. Directly, the way she had in the deep end, fixing on something solid. "I changed how I saved your number," she said. After week 3. I don't know why I'm telling you that. The car park was very quiet. What did you change it to? I said. She looked away. Her jaw moved once. Cole, a pause, in brackets. I bracket things when I'm not ready to say them properly. Something shifted in my chest in a way I had no professional vocabulary for. I said I've spent 6 weeks being very careful. I noticed, she said. I didn't think it would be fair. You came to me because your sister. My sister gave you my number because I asked her to, she said. Quiet and even. I said I was looking for a swimming coach. That was true. It was also not the complete picture. Silence. A car moved somewhere at the far end of the car park. The light was doing something specific to the afternoon that I was probably going to think about later. She looked at me funny when I asked, Mara said. I told her it was just swimming lessons. She looked at me funnier. I ignored it. I am choosing not to speculate about what she thought. She'd probably be fine, I said. She would be fine. She is. We both knew it was over before it was over. I'm not worried about Jess. She was quiet for a moment. I'm worried about doing this wrong. I do most things carefully. I don't have a lot of practice with things I haven't already planned. I said, You got in the deep end anyway. She looked at me. Something in her face changed, small and permanent. That's not a fair thing to say to me, she said. I can't argue with that. You don't have to, I said. Mara, I think you know what I'd like. You don't have to do anything with it that you're not sure about. I meant that. She held my gaze for a moment, long enough to be the thing it was. Then she said, I'm sure. She didn't say it loudly. She said it the way she said most true things, under her breath, exactly right, not technically addressed to anyone. Except this time, it was addressed entirely to me. I took one step toward her. She didn't move away. Coffee was good, by the way, I said. She made the sound that was her version of a laugh. I know, she said. I looked up your order. That landed somewhere I hadn't expected. Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Her face did the thing where she was trying not to let the timing be as funny as it was. She showed me the screen. Jess calling. We stood there for a second. I'll call her back, she said. Probably wise. She looked at me. Next Thursday. Not a lesson. Not a lesson, I said. She answered the phone as she walked away. I heard her say, very evenly, hey. Yes, everything's fine. Why do you ask? Months later, she still brackets things she isn't ready to say directly. Her kitchen table still has more sticky notes than surface. She bought a swim cap that is technically better than her old one, and refuses to admit it's more comfortable, because she would have to concede the point to me about her technique. On a Tuesday in October, she stood at the edge of the public pool, the deep end, without hesitation, and pushed off the wall. She did not look for me first. She didn't need to. She went and came back and climbed out and picked up her water bottle, and when I said nothing she said, to no one in particular, I'm aware I've improved. I know, I said. She looked at me sideways. Then she looked at the water. Then she said, quietly and precisely, the thing she had been working up to in brackets for weeks. Good. I like having someone notice. A year later, when people ask about us, Mara says we met through Jess and leaves it there. Because she says the rest of it is hard to explain without sounding like the plot of something. She's right. I tell them. Swimming lessons, car park, coffee, she tells them. The deep end. Both versions are accurate. Neither is the whole picture. The whole picture is this. She grabbed my arm and held on because it was practical. She let go when she didn't need to anymore. Then she chose to stay close for an entirely different reason. And she bracketed it for weeks until she didn't. Nothing important arrived suddenly. It had just been waiting for someone to stop pretending it wasn't there. What would you have done if someone you'd been careful around finally stopped being careful too? And have you ever held on to something, or someone, longer than you planned and realized that was actually the decision? Tell me in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.